Hi, good to see you. I want to have a conversation today about sort of this third way. And I wrote about this, I don't know, maybe a decade ago about finding a job, but it really applies really beautifully to go-to-market. There's the first way, which is sort of through the front door. That's like cold calling and intros, whatever it may be. Sorry, like cold calling, just like the outbound stuff. The going through the back door is like intros and warm relationships, and that's different too. But there's this third way that I think that people don't really realize can be massive. And it's when you do things that are against the grain and delight people. And there's so many different ways to do that. Some people call this brand marketing. I call it the PVP, permissionless value prop. It's like going in, and I think the CEO of Docebo, I love this because I'm like, look, I found customers of yours that weren't case studies. I interviewed them, and then I put together a compilation of case studies, and I want to make sure it's written in your voice. Who should I chat with internally so that this can get published on your website? Right? That's the third way. That's like, I understand that I can thread the needle. And so many people don't do that. And there are tools that have tried to automate this, and PVP is designed to be automated. Sendoso bought Alice to do this with gifting, to try to send people like gifts that are bespoke to them. Chris is great. But this is the power of superintelligence in our pocket, is that we can use it not in ways to personalize a message, but we can use it to help us think of ways to deliver joy, to deliver a truly exceptional experience that doesn't feel like being hammered by a salesperson. And there's 1,000 ways to do this, and I'll just talk about a couple. If you understand your customers so well, you can deliver them insights that they didn't even know about. Insights about their brand, about their competitors, about their market. If you spent a lot of time with your customers, you can find secrets for them, and you can just send them secrets. You don't have to pitch your product. They'll know. And I had a conversation with a corporate buyer at Walmart, and I said, who are the salespeople that you buy from today? How many of them over your course of decades? He's like, there's about 3 to 4. Because when I would go to them, they would say, here's what's good for you. Here's where the product will fall down. Here's where it'll do well. Here's where it won't do well. And that sales rep would follow this guy, and this guy would also always ask that sales rep, hey, what's going on? Because he built trust. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is just deliver unbridled joy. If people like you, they will talk to you. They will spend time with you. I have done this by building a brand so that I can open up. I've got a friend that's looking for a job right now, and I just sent random people that worked at the companies that she wanted to work for. I said, hey, what's it like to work over there? Like, would you recommend it? Is this good? Everyone responded to me. And some of that is because I built a brand, and some of that is because I wasn't asking for anything. Some of that is because I was basically saying hey, is this a place you would work? I had no ask. And so you can also do this by delaying gratification, which is, how do you just help someone? And if they see you as someone that is helpful, they will ask you. And then that's kind of where it becomes inbound. It's not Dale Carnegie. I always get this wrong. Whoever's the guy that wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But he kind of talked about this, and he said, if you do this as a tactic, it will fail. But if you become this person, it will work well. And if you can become a person that is just helpful, that you will want for naught, But to do that, you need to be able to understand something about the person you're reaching out to. You have to kind of understand their world. You have to know what brings them joy. And not just the person, but the context in which that person exists. And this is why horizontal SaaS has such a hard time with this, because if you sell into healthcare and plumbers, they're just different. They want different things. And if you then sell also into B2B SaaS, you don't gain any specific knowledge that is useful to the buyer, and you also don't understand them. So you default to talking about you. And because most people think in quarters and not quarter centuries, they don't have the patience, they don't have the creativity, because their jobs aren't structured to be that. Now, go-to-market leaders have some of this, but even their tenure is 18 months or something, probably less, probably a year. And so to make these large bets, you have to have founder level support. And so I just would encourage you, now if you're in an SDR position or whatever, this is going to be much harder for you to do, but I would encourage you to just drop in a couple of companies of your customers, drop in their transcripts, drop in their LinkedIn URLs and say, just tell me everything about, like, go research this and tell me everything I need to know about this. What have people said for my internal? Just spend time learning. And if you spend time learning, you'll find ways to deliver delight. And if you can deliver delight, pipeline will come. Trust me. And this is why sales templates are the worst. And it's really hard, even in my engagements, like I end up writing in slightly better sales templates. Here's your situation. Here's a customer testimonial about that situation. Do you want to chat? It's like kind of most of the copy that I write. And I would rather not. I would rather send people like a gigantic lock and key and say, for the next time you experience a vulnerability, to like break the seal. That's what I want to do. I just want to be like, no pipeline. I feel like Kyle Lacey does this. I think Dave Gerhardt has done some of this kind of stuff because they're CMOs. But I just think that we totally underestimate the value of just delivering people joy, of finding other ways that aren't about pipeline generation, of understanding our buyers, understanding their situation, understanding their motivations, the context in which they buy, understanding their industry, and telling them things that aren't good for me. Like, oh, here's why and when you shouldn't buy me. Here's why and when the product will fall down. Here are the situations under which failure occurs. And I don't ever fight with any of my clients anymore. Boy, I used to. Because what I was selling wasn't really what I could deliver. When I was in a lead generation business, like no one can deliver leads. Eventually someone on your team has to close those deals and has to deploy them and so I would just say that, like, if you're thinking about what can I do to have the most impact on a brand, and not necessarily what people would buy, but the most impact on a brand, I think honestly it would be, what is a surface area that is so underutilized that is not directly related to leads and pipeline. And if you can do that, and you can deliver insight, you can deliver joy, you can make the person you're sending a message to feel understood, and you can distance it from a transaction, I don't think that you'll have a problem with pipeline. And this is what creates spectacular brands. And so many people, when they're thinking about going outbound, they're tied to some leads number. And I'm not so naive to think that that shouldn't be the case. But also, like I think about my friend David, who's a CMO, and he produces these wacky videos that are just totally deranged. He works in like network security, and they get hundreds of thousands of views. And their technical documentation, which is like what most of their customers consume, is like hundreds of views. And that's because he has the freedom to experiment, to drive awareness, but also to just deliver joy in a field that my guess is has a lot of lack of it. So that's your sort of quest for the day, which is if you had to deliver something that was independently useful or exciting or insightful, or just to build a relationship without sales breath, what would that look like? How would you do it? And what would the other person get? And would they find that useful and valuable? And would they experience it not as a tactic to get a sale? And I think if you could become really good at that, you'll never have pipeline problems. I've done that with content. I had a customer come to me and they self-educated on all my stuff. They're like, oh, I see your point of view. Yeah. So have a beautiful day. I'm here at the Botanical Gardens. I have the whole place to myself. I'm just working on a bench.